New Pokémon Snap. This Pokémon spin-off game for the Nintendo Switch released over 2 decades after the original Pokémon Snap for the Nintendo 64. And so, we're talking about a Pokémon Snap for literally a whole new generation of players here. I did play the original Pokémon Snap, and I recently revisited that game for the first time in 25 years. Links in the pinned comment if you'd like to check that video out. So I was really interested to see how the Pokémon Snap experience has been tweaked for a more modern audience, and potentially what extra stuff might have been thrown in there on modern hardware. I've just had a playthrough and yeah, let's talk about it. Spoilers ahead, by the way, just so you know. So we fade into an intro cutscene here, and oh my gosh, has a Pokemon game ever looked this good? We'll get into that a little bit more in a bit, but yeah, wow, this looks amazing. We are warmly welcomed to the Lental region by the Chief of Pokemon Science here, Professor Mirror, and his new assistant Rita. And I'll be honest, I didn't end up reading half of this opening dialogue because I was very distracted by the Eevee walking around in the background. Also, the camera in this game, really cool, I want one of these so bad. Along the way, we also meet Phil, who's supposed to encompass some sort of rival role in this game. That's what it feels like anyway, but it was a bit of a needless extra character to me. And also, the return of Todd Snap himself, from the original game. Except he's all grown up now, and taking on a secondary mentor role alongside Professor Mirror. They really didn't have to bring Todd back, with this game being for a new generation of players. But it's a brilliant little nod to those of us who did play the OG Snap back in the day. Then we're tossed into a pretty comprehensive tutorial. This is where it really starts feeling like a modern game, because the original Snap gave you a quick rundown and then sent you out on your way to figure things out as you go. This one lasted a lot longer, for what is a very basic point and shoot premise, but it's whatever, not a big deal. The way your photos are graded is a little more complicated than the original too. There are a few categories you gain points in, as well as a star rating system for each Pokemon photo, ranging from 1 to 4. So you want to try and get a photo with each star rating if you're a hardcore completionist. I like the rating system in the new Snap more than the old one for sure. The old Snap felt a bit inconsistent and even arbitrary at times. These new scoring parameters make the better photos actually feel earned. You know when you've taken a good photo in this game. Big fan of that. There's also optional extra stuff you can do with the photos you've taken. You can slap stickers and borders and filters over them if you want to. Personally, I think this is really tacky. If you've gotten a really nice shot of a Pokemon, I feel like doing all this is defacing it, if anything. But hey, if that's your thing, there's a lot of options here. You find yourself unlocking new stickers and stuff all the time as you play. So I mentioned the opening cutscene looking really good. This whole game looks really good. The environments are beautiful and saturated, with really good lighting as well. The way the Pokemon run around in them. It is exactly what I've always imagined it would be like to be dropped into the Pokemon world. So I'm going to give a bit of a spicy take here. Or it might not be that spicy, I don't know, you can let me know in the comments. But I think new Pokemon Snap is the best argument for linear mainline Pokemon games I have ever seen. Because imagine each of these courses being a route in a linear game. If given the choice between a huge open world where there's not really too much going on in 90% of it, or a world with linear, closed routes that look like this, I've got to say, I'd choose this every time. And it walks that line. It's a linear route with a 360 camera, so each route will be more like a mini wild area. My mind was racing with all the possibilities while I was playing this game. I can't see Pokemon steering back away from open world now. I think the genie's out the bottle. But man, a mainline game with linear routes like this, I will continue to wildly dream. New Pokemon Snap has a pretty nice little story to it as well. The original didn't have a story. The concept of Pokemon photography was story enough for us back then, let's be fair. But this new version tasks us with investigating the mysterious Illumina phenomenon, which is like this ethereal glowing effect that a select few Pokemon appear to have taken on permanently. There are also these special flowers called Crystalblooms which also glow with this same energy. Professor Mirror is carrying out his research on the hypothesis that this phenomenon was caused by a meteorite that dropped over the Lental region 2,000 years ago. So we're helping with that research by taking lots and lots of photos across the region. And the Illumina Pokemon we come face to face with through our adventure are basically boss missions. We need to photograph them in their full sparkling Illumina state, which gets progressively more difficult as they go on. It's kinda like they've taken the final Mew course at the end of the OG Pokémon Snap and created a bunch of challenges like that. But this is good for me. A bit like gyms in mainline games, these Illumina bosses serve as a really helpful marker of progression through the game. Illumina as a concept is cool. It looks like it could almost be a gimmick form in a mainline game, but I do wish it had more to it. The Pokemon have a really pretty aura around them, and the Crystabloom flowers are interesting enough, but there's almost no meaning to it beyond the aesthetic. Look, it's a Pokemon photography game. The aesthetic is the point, I guess. But it would have been nice to have some stakes in here. A reason why we need to figure this phenomenon out that hangs over our heads throughout our adventures. I was pleasantly surprised by how replayable all the courses were in this game. I mentioned in my original Snap video that the courses lost their novelty kinda quickly, because every single Pokemon animation and movement is heavily scripted. And while that is still the case here, the courses in this new version have plenty of additional actions you can trigger. There are branching paths you can unlock. Many of the courses have daytime and nighttime variants. You can run through all the courses multiple times more than the original Snap without it feeling tedious. Items also return in the new Pokemon Snap. We still have the apple, which, well, for some reason have been renamed to Fluffroot in this title. Still looks like an apple to me, but go off I guess. Then there's the Illumina orbs that you can unlock for each course as you play. You can throw these at Pokemon to make them temporarily glow, or you can throw them at the Crystabloom flowers, and sometimes that triggers certain behaviours in the Pokemon nearby. The Pokeflute returns, or I think it's just called Melody in this game. Again, nearby Pokemon will react in fun ways when that's playing, or emerge from hiding spots. Yeah, not much needed changing from the original here. I think the groundwork was solid enough. We've just replaced Pesteballs with Illumina orbs to fit the new concept. You don't want to overcomplicate things either, especially with the courses being pretty short. You'd end up missing a lot of shots if you were having to fumble through too many items. Another interesting note in New Snap is that we have voice acting in this game, which is awesome to finally see in some Pokemon game, but it's only full voice acting in the big cutscene portions. Whenever we're just pushing through your standard game loop dialogue, it's text-based, with just the occasional soundbite layered on top that isn't even part of the sentence they're saying. Like, yeah, a new discovery. By the way, it gets a bit annoying after a while. Apparently you can switch those little soundbites off in the settings, but I didn't look in there during my playthrough, so that's on me. Voice acting is seemingly a big thing for Pokemon fans. A lot of people think that the time for voice acting was yesterday, to be honest. I think this could be the best way to do it if they were going to go down that path. Just voice act the key cutscenes, so you don't have this silent void where there should be an epic speech or singing. Maybe that's on the horizon, who knows. The game builds up to a gripping finale as we uncover some ruins that confirm one final Illumina Pokemon we hadn't planned for. As we were dropping into the final course, I was frantically trying to guess which Pokemon it was. I was like, Celebi, maybe? Jirachi? My brain was on the mythical path because the final OG Snap course was Mew. But that Pokemon ended up being Xerneas. Definitely didn't expect that, but it kinda makes sense now when I fit all the pieces together. And this was pretty easy, to be honest. I feel like they just wanted us to enjoy this final quest here without getting too tilted. And as I understand it, it turns out that Xerneas is the key to the Illumina phenomenon, not the meteor that fell 2 millenniums ago. In fact, Xerneas saved the Lental region from that meteorite, and the remnants of that action are what caused the phenomenon to spout up in small patches across the region. It's very vague, it's left kind of open-ended. I think you could interpret it a few different ways, but it ties things up well enough, I think. I definitely think the whole Illumina thing could have been developed a little more, but it's a photography game. It executes its core premise well, and that's the main thing. There was also a free DLC that got added to this game. I was wondering why there seemed to be so many extra paths after the credits have rolled. That's what it is. Great of them to do that. Definitely won't have been an expectation for most players. Those new paths added in a bunch of new Pokemon as well. Happy days. New Pokemon Snap, I feel, fits really well into the cozy game category. It's one of those where it's a great game to decompress to. It's nice on the eyes, it's a smooth gameplay loop, and while I need a bit of a break after playing it for a good few days solid, I can see myself coming back to this after a while, to fill out the photo decks a little more. I feel like the next step for Pokémon Snap, if there is to be another one at some point down the line, would be to take us off the rails, and let us run around freely. Kinda like the Blood Moon Ursa Luna quest in Scarlet and Violet's DLC. Maybe with a time limit in there instead of the scripted loop around the map. That feels like a natural evolution for the game. For now, why don't you guys fill me in on your opinions on new Pokémon Snap? How did you find the experience? Pleasant? Grindy? Cozy? Boring? Whatever you think, let me know in the comments. While you're down there, please do drop a like on the video, that helps me a lot. Subscribe for more Pokémon content. Consider becoming a channel member to see your name in the credits here. And of course, hop into the Discord to chat with us all over there. Thanks so much for watching, take it easy, and I'll catch you all in the next one.